The story starts with Maya telling us about Aunt T, that she was 79 years old when she met her and describes her as old, strong, with gray hair. She ends the paragraph by saying that she looked more like an Indian chef than an old black woman. Aunt T by this time was living alone in a dead yet neat ground floor apartment. Whenever Maya visited her, she would tell stories. She was proud that after working for 30 years as a maid, the next 30 years were spent living as a housekeeper. At least, as a housekeeper, she carried the keys to rich white folks and kept their accounts. As a housekeeper, she could live in, which means the white families could see that she was neat and clean, just like them, or even more. She could also see that the whites were not any smarter, but just luckier sometimes. Maya tells a memory of a story that Aunt T told her when she was a housekeeper for a couple in Bel Air, California. She lived with them in a 14-room ranch house. The day maid cleaned, the gardener attended the garden. Aunt T was in charge of all the workers. When she began working there, she used to serve light breakfast, a good lunch, and a 3 or 4 course dinner to her employers and their guests. After a few years, they stopped entertaining and hardly had dinner. Finally, they sat silently and they ate the evening meal of scrambled eggs, Melba toast, and weak tea. According to Aunt T, she saw them age, but she did not see herself aging at all. She kept company with the chauffeur, a best friend, and the friend's husband. On Saturday evenings, she cooked soul food. Her friends would join her and they would eat, drink, play record, and dance. They would share jokes and they laughed a lot. On this particular Saturday evening party, the employer called her when they were playing cards. She told her that they had noticed they were having a good time and that they could hear them laugh every Saturday night and that they wanted to come and watch. Aunt T and her company agreed, although it was sad that the employers with a gracious house, a swimming pool, 3 cars, and numberless palm trees had no joy. Laughter and relaxation had left the house, and this was sad. Maya notes that for nearly 30 years, the story remained fresh in her mind and always contained a lesson that would benefit her. She describes how she would draw the picture of the wealthy couple standing in a dark hallway, peering into the lighted room where Aunt T and her company were having a good time. She notes that living well is an art which can be developed. She notes that the basics of living well are a love of life and the ability to take great pleasure from the small things of life. She adds that the world owes you nothing and that people who differ in opinion and other things like race, religion, and politics can be friends. She continues that living life is an art that requires a readiness to forgive. She explains that this does not mean that you must accept ill treatment from others, but rather it means that you remember your shortcomings whenever you encounter the flaws of another person. She continues that because of our routine, we often forget that life is an ongoing adventure. We do everything expecting it to work out just like we planned. But the truth is, we know nothing. Not when our car will fail, or when the bus will stall, or whether that job we are rushing to will be there when we arrive at work. With this, she concludes that life is pure adventure, and the sooner we realize that, the quicker we will be able to treat life as an art, to have energy for every encounter, and be flexible enough to notice and admit when our expectations do not happen. Towards the end, she notes that We are created creative, and we can invent new scenarios as frequently as they are needed. According to Maya, life seems to love the liver of it. Money and power can be liberating and at the same time can imprison the same way as barred windows and iron chains.